Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, you can tune a guitar, but you can't tune a fish. Unless you play bass. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Scope U-Boot from Draco Ideas. We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review. In Scope U-Boot from Draco Ideas, two players take on the roles of either the German U-boats as they attempt to sink tonnage in the North Atlantic, or the desperate British freighters and destroyers as they attempt to escort it safely across the sea. Now, there's some advanced game rules here, different modes. I'm going to talk about the basic game and tell you my thoughts. In Scope U-Boot, you're going to go ahead and lay out a grid starting at 5x5, but they can get bigger, of cards that are just empty ocean. You go ahead, you lay those out flat. Now, the player playing the allies, they're going to go ahead and put down a destroyer and two freighters on the board. And what's going to happen is the German player will take the 5 cards closest to them, mix them up, put their 2 U-boats in there, lay it out so that they know where the U-boats are, and then take the 2 sea cards and just set them off to the side. So the player begins knowing that there are 2 U-boats in that first row. Now, players take turns. Now, what the German can do on his turn, he can go ahead and move his U-boat. Now, how he moves his U-boat is he selects any 2x2 grid on the board, and he goes ahead and he mixes them up, and then he places them back down. So he can rearrange where his U-boat is. But he can also just pick 4 random sea zones and mix those up to bluff the opponent to make him think that perhaps there's a U-boat in that sector. Now, instead of moving, the German player can choose to fire a torpedo. What they can do is they can reveal where the submarine is and put a torpedo on top of the card after it's placed back face down. Now, they can place that torpedo facing any of the 8 directions around it. Ideally, it's going to be aiming at one of the Allied ships. Now, on the first turn that torpedo is laid, you would go to a torpedo phase, but you don't activate the torpedo on that first turn. Now, in subsequent turns, that torpedo is going to move at the end of every action round. Now, for the allies, the player can move ships. Now, essentially, he has the destroyer, and the destroyer is a fast ship. It's got a fast ship icon on it. And what that means is, on its turn, the destroyer, he can look at any of the 8 cards around him and flip them over, and he can see what's under them. Now, if it's just ocean, then he immediately just goes on top of that card. If it is a U-boat, then you swap out with an ocean, he moves on there, and the U-boat is destroyed. Now, if the ally wants to move one of their freighters, these are slow-moving ships. So what that means is, on your turn, instead of actually moving the freighter, you would place an arrow on the freighter. So you're showing exactly what direction the freighter is going to move in. Now, that's your turn. On your next turn, the first thing you do is you take the arrow off and you move the freighter in that direction. Then you can go ahead and take your other action as normal. But it just shows that the freighters have kind of a 2-step movement action that the fast ships, the destroyers, don't. So players are going back and forth. The allies are attempting to move their cargo ships off the edge of the board, and the Germans are attempting to target them with their U-boats. If they hit a U-boat with a torpedo, then they get the torpedo token back because they can only have 2 of them on the board at a time, and they take the freighter as a trophy. Now, if they hit the destroyer gets flipped over and he's got another side. If they hit him again, then the destroyer is taken off the board. Now, typically in a standard game of 5x5, you're going to 2 points, but if you have more ships or a bigger board, you can go ahead and have a higher point number count. So whoever succeeds in getting the most points or reaching their objectives wins Scope U-Boot. So I was a fan of Scope Stalingrad, which came out a year or 2 ago, which is a very similar game about snipers battling in Stalingrad, and you kind of don't know where the snipers are or what they're doing. It's a very interesting game. It's a quick game, and it was just a very intense experience, and I really enjoyed it. And I was very excited to see Scope U-Boot come out because it kind of has a lot of the same ideas, but at the same time, it's updated for this particular theater of war. This is a hidden movement game, and it's also a game of trying to decide
what the best movement is here. Very often the U-boats can launch their torpedoes, and because the freighters are so slow moving, they don't have time to get out of the way. And it's a very interesting dilemma because, of course, those torpedoes move at the end of every round. So I played this the other night with Chris, and we really enjoyed it. It's a fun, light, super light, and yet thematic game about World War II on the high seas. It plays in like 20 minutes, if that, and it's intense. And you've got real tough decisions to make. And frankly, I didn't think I would spend as much time trying to take my turn as I did in this game, particularly when I was the Allies, because you're freaking out. You don't know where those U-boats are. You don't know how quickly they can launch those missiles at you, those torpedoes at you. So it's a great, fun, light experience. If you're looking for a fun World War II game that you can play in about 20 minutes that packs a punch, the Discriminating Gamer highly recommends Scope U-Boot. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I would ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. I'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history, fun things like that. I'm currently uploading my World War II lectures onto that channel, so it would mean a lot to me if you would like and subscribe to that channel. And please like this video and like us on Board Game Geek. That also helps us out a lot as well. And if you're a big fan of the channel, if you like the content we produce here, I'd ask you to please click on the Super Thanks button here on this video to make a contribution. We would really appreciate that. And speaking of money, ladies and gentlemen, you know it's true. Money can't buy happiness. But poverty can't buy you anything.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love the
I say we play this game for the crown.
It's not been 2 minutes and already I hate you.